Good morning. Welcome to the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners April 21st, 2026 meeting. The first thing we start off with is the pledge. Those who can, please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start off with public comment. Public comment portion of the county board meeting allows an opportunity for citizens to address the county board in a public setting. At this time, I would like to welcome Cora, I'm not going to kill your last name, to the podium for their request to provide public comment to the commissioners. Please note this meeting is being recorded. There's a 5-minute timeline. I've asked the county administrator to give you a 1-minute warning and let you know when you've used the allotted time. Comments from the public are expected to be civil and respectful. The board will not take action today, but will direct county staff to respond appropriately to issues raised. So now, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Cora Uigwe, and I live in Mankato.
Okay.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for having me speak with you today. It goes without saying that this has been a very difficult year for Mankato, and it has been a very difficult 16 months for our country. We have watched as our safety, our democracy, our stability, and our dignity erode at unprecedented rates. Our only hope of saving our country are free and fair elections in November. But this federal administration has been doing everything in its power to stop free and fair elections across the country. If you think that's impossible, think again, because this administration has demonstrated in countless ways how it plans to erode our right to vote. Some of these things this administration has done to stop free and fair elections include trying to pass the SAFE Act, trying to get rid of mail-in ballots, changing postmark laws for mail, denying the 2020 elections and preventing the peaceful transfer of power and pardoning January 6th insurrectionists, attempting illegal gerrymandering across the country, asking for voter rolls and taking voter rolls from states, as they did during Metro Surge when they demanded our voter rolls as leverage to get ICE out of our communities. They have threatened to declare martial law to prevent the vote from happening. They are getting rid of birthright citizenship, and they are censoring free speech and consolidating media empires to control the narrative. Many of these actions are illegal and unconstitutional, but that has not stopped them. As they have demonstrated, they do not care about our Constitution or our rights. Changing the rules of who and how people are able to vote and limiting access to voting is how this administration plans to steal this election from under us. They have made it loud and clear they do not want free and fair elections, and they are doing everything in their power to make that a reality. We have to imagine what could election interference from the federal government look like in Blue Earth County. We cannot afford to be naive and think that that could never happen, like we did with ICE, because it used to be impossible that ICE would take legal green card holders, or take children from their schools, or abduct and kill US citizens. We were not prepared then with the legal teeth and support from our local governments to protect us from threats of violence from our federal government. The people's lives were lost and destroyed and continue to be destroyed because of lack of accountability, boldness, and bravery from local elected officials and leaders. We eventually did put protections in place in Mankato, but it was too late and the damage had already been done. We didn't have the time to respond then, but we have time to prepare for election interference now. We have to imagine today all the possible things they could throw at us and put up the guardrails now to protect our local elections. We need to treat this threat with the urgency and the seriousness it deserves. Could they put ICE at polling stations? Could they weaponize the National Guard like they did last year against the consent of state governors? What happens if they take away mail-in voting or reduce UPS funding, preventing the delivery of ballots? What if polling places are changed last minute like they did in the Texas primaries? What are other possibilities we haven't thought of yet? This is our moment as a nation. Either we protect this election and enforce the results with our whole spirit, or we will lose this country as we know it forever. This could be the last free and fair election we have as a country, if we let it happen. We, the people, have a choice. You have a choice. Will you take action today to protect our rights and give us a chance to save our country? Or will we drag our feet and speculate and say our hands are tied?
1 minute
and
remaining.
watch as the United States falls into fascism and wish we had done more when we have the chance? I know what I will be doing between now and then. I will continue to use my voice and organize with my community in ways that I never have before. You have more power than me. What will you do? Will you do everything in your power? I do not envy your position. You are what give us hope. You are the checks and balances we are depending on to protect our very way of life as a nation. I don't have the answers, but I have the faith that you will work tirelessly in partnership with other counties to come up with solutions that will protect every single vote in Blue Earth County and across Minnesota. Thank you for our service to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cora.
Oops. Excuse me. Okay, agenda review.
Madam Chair, there is one slight change in the EDA agenda, but we'll get to that in just a second. So otherwise, there are no other changes.
Thank you, Bob. And then we move into Economic Development Authority.
You'll need to vote on the
Oh, sorry.
agenda.
Thank
Second.
Thanks, I'm already ready to roll here. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
I'll move to recess for economic development.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Economic Development Authority. So, agenda review?
Yes, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I believe it's item 12, if I remember correctly. We'll have a slight adjustment to the resolution there, but Ms. Volkeman can explain that when we get to that item.
All right, thanks, Bob.
I'll move the agenda with the change.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Minutes of March 17th.
I'll move the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, project number 11208. Good morning. State your name and job title, please.
Good morning, Dustin Bordenholt, Facilities Manager, City of Mankato.
Good morning. Thank you.
Board Chair, fellow Commissioners, I'll be presenting 4 agenda items today for project 11208. I do apologize for the redundancy because they're a lot alike. So we'll get started. Project number 11208, Blue Earth County RAD Conversion Improvements Bid Package for the Appliances section. Recommendation adoption of the attached resolution. This project as bid includes replacement of appliances. This work takes place at various sites. These locations and scope of work were identified through the multi-site capital needs assessment performed by Domalion Due Diligence Group. They include replacing washers and dryers, fridges and ranges, Breckenridge Townhomes, Pioneer Plaza in Madison Lake, Eastview Apartments in Mapleton, and then single and duplex family homes throughout Blue Earth County. Roughly, it's about 50% of the cost going to Breckenridge Townhomes, and then 50% of the remaining costs scattered across the rest. 2 bids were submitted. The low bidder was Quality Appliance with a base bid of $114,900. Staff recommend awarding the bid in the amount of $114,900 and adopting the bid award resolution.
I move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one.
Board Chair, fellow Commissioners, this is the bid package for project 11208 for the exterior. The project as bid includes repair of retaining walls, restriping accessible parking lot markings, and then replacing concrete patios at the various sites through that same assessment. They include Pioneer Plaza, Apartments Madison Lake, Eastview Apartments, Mapleton, and then the single and duplex family homes throughout Worth County. The one qualified bid was submitted by Nielsen Blacktopping and Concrete, base bid of $194,900. We recommend awarding the bid and adopting the resolution.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Board Chair, fellow commissioners, this agenda item ties to the same project, 11208, bid package flooring. The project as bid includes replacement of LTV flooring and ceramic tile, again, at various sites throughout Worth County, the Breckenridge Townhome, Pioneer Plaza, Eastview, and then the single duplex homes throughout. It's roughly 31 units plus several common areas that will be replaced. 2 qualified bids were submitted. The parent low bidder is Craig Hertas Construction with a base bid of $384,362.40. Staff recommend awarding the bid in the amount described above through the resolution.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Board Chair, fellow commissioners, this is the last and final bid package for the mechanical that ties back to project 11208. This project is bid, it includes replacement of water heaters, air conditioning units, electrical code upgrade, fire system components at various sites identified through that same needs assessment. This one, Breckenridge Townhomes in Eagle Lake, is roughly 70% of the cost of this one. That's about roughly $139,650 just for that location. And then the remaining $60,000 or close to is spread between Pioneer Plaza, Eastview Apartments, and then the single and duplex family homes. 3 bids were submitted by qualified contractors for this one. Parent low bidder is Quality Appliance, Mankato, Minnesota, with a base bid of $199,500. Staff recommend awarding the bid and adopting the resolution. And just to give the group some clarity, on 317 we presented that bid rejection. The idea was to put all the work into one lump sum. We exceeded bid. We came to the board and we explained we were going to itemize that into bid packages, what we did today, and that reduced it to $893,662. So that did save us money, and we were able to kind of push that across the finish line.
Great.
That was going to be my question, so thank you.
Yep.
So I have
I'll
a
second.
motion and a second. Any discussion?
Second.
Had a nice article in the Free Press about the upgrades in these low-income homes. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, we had a very similar project go through the Mankato EDA recently. So yeah, we're investing quite a bit into the low-income housing, and it's one of our priorities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. So motion and a second. We've had discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You guys are
Thank
going to be
you.
busy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy. Connection Shelter Summer Expansion. Good morning.
Good morning. Got the whole team.
Morning, Andrew.
Chair and Commissioners, today we have Andrew Beach is here with, joining me with the Housing Trust Fund, and then we do have Mary Grack here from the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership as we talk about the Community Land Trust today. The first item we have is the Connection Shelter, and Andrew and I have been part of the Housing Trust Advisory Committee, and we're presenting it on behalf of them to request the EDA to authorize the Housing Trust Fund resources to expand the Connection Shelter emergency operations through the summer of 2026. The proposed expansion would be continuous, low-barrier overnight shelter from May 1st through September 30th, addressing that critical seasonal gap in our homeless response system. Connection is uniquely positioned to implement this expansion immediately, leveraging their established facility, their trained staff, and a proven service model with a housing first, harm reduction, trauma-informed care philosophies. Funding for this proposal represents a strategic investment in stabilizing vulnerable residents in our community, improving housing outcomes, advancing our community's goal of a sustainable year-round shelter system. Giving you some background, the Mankato area is currently lacking consistent shelter available during the summer months, resulting in unsheltered homeless encampments and more reliance on emergency services. While Connections operates at near capacity during their traditional season of October to May, they have historically ceased during the summer due to funding limitations. To date, they did give us some information. Shelter applications continue to increase. Last year they were at 325. This year they were at 412. They were able to serve 660 individuals last year, and this year they were at 222. The proposed shelter would operate 48 beds overnight from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. daily through the summer months and include low barriers access with flexible check-in hours, safe supervised overnight accommodation, meals and basic needs support, some on-site housing-focused case management, and then they do participate in the state's homeless management system, as well as coordinated entry and service navigations. They've been operating in our community for nearly a decade. They have established financial systems and demonstrate success in managing state and local grant programs. And the budget they're projecting for this summer months is the budget gap that they have for summer operations is $145,283, and that's primarily driven by personnel expenses. And then they did also receive $10,000 in CDBG funds through the City of Mankato, and they are working on other private fundraising efforts, including currently they're in a community match process to try to raise funds for that year-round shelter service. So definitely that would be a way to sustain this going forward. This one-time payment would allow them time to leverage more resources to keep it going in the future. Community impact. Approving these funds would be a meaningful and immediate impact on the community by ensuring continuous access to shelter and reducing the number of individuals experiencing unsheltered homelessness. Overall, the funding aligns closely with established community priorities, including promoting housing stability, improving public health outcomes, and ensuring equal access to essential services for residents. We would recommend, or the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee recommends that the EDA authorize a resolution allocating Housing Trust Fund resources to support the Connection Shelter expansion through the summer months from May through September in an amount not to exceed $135,283. And it would be subject to standard funding agreements and reporting requirements in order to address that seasonal gap in shelter service needs and our work towards creating a sustainable year-round homeless response system.
Move to approve.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion?
That's amazing. That's good that we can get that through the summer. I mean, the winter months is really nice, but summertime, I would imagine when it's hot, and more challenging. And these will help serve some families, right? Or is
Yes,
this-
it does.
Yes, okay. No, good program, good job.
I think people would be amazed at how many homeless families we have out on our streets and parking lots. It's kind of scary.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I have a motion and we've got discussion, a motion, a second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Nancy.
The next item we have is the Community Land Trust. The EDA is committed to the Community Land Trust. The EDA's commitment to the Community Land Trust has enabled the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership to leverage additional public and private resources to sustainably increase their housing production. With the county and the city funds, the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership has greater flexibility in strategically layering the funds with new market tax credit funding and the Minnesota Housing Resources on a project-by-project basis. This approach has strengthened the program's efficiency and impact, allowing for an increased production of affordable homes in our communities. This year, there will be a visible impact from the Housing Trust Fund when they are aiming to create 21 new homes to be sold to buyers here in Mankato. To date, they have 7 homes that have been sold over the past 3 years. 1 home was in '23, 2 homes in '24, and 4 homes last year. Currently under Phase 3, they will be acquiring 5 homes, and they have 2 homes that have been purchased, and Mary was just telling us today that 1 more home, so 3 homes now have been purchased or will be purchased in this month. And one of the homes was sold in December and the other will be sold here in June. And then the third one will have some rehab to do before they actually sell that home. So then there'll be 2 other homes under that phase that they'll be seeking to purchase and rehab. Under phase 3, 4, and 5, they'll be providing 17 new homes in the area, which are in process right now. They have 4 homes that have been constructed on Scotch Lane, and they closed this month. They have 8 homes that will be constructed on the Good Counsel Meadows, and 5 homes that will be constructed near the Jefferson Quarry. These homes will be constructed to serve households at or below 80% of area median income. And that is a requirement under the new market tax credits, but where they have the opportunities, they'll still continue to seek ways to help families up to 100% of area median income. Southwest has a long-term vision to develop 100 PCL homes in the region, and definitely using Mankato as a service model for the region. The demand for the PCL homes continues to increase through outreach efforts and marketing. They do have a pipeline of mortgage-ready home buyers. The average range is from 1 to 11 individuals in the homes, and the buyers qualifying for mortgages are between $180,000 to $300,000. And staff are actively working with those buyers to utilize or leverage state down payment assistance programs, the USDA, the housing choice vouchers that the EDA administers, and other local resources. And they have been working with different lenders, Old National Bank, US Bank, and Guild Mortgage to finance these homes, and they've been improving their process and efficiencies to assist home buyers in that process. Today they do want to bring before you a contract phase 5. Although the funding for Minnesota Housing was not received last December, they still would like to move forward with that project, and instead of 10 homes, they would like to look at 5 homes. So last July, you had agreed to support that project as it went into Minnesota Housing. So they'd like to come back and use the new market tax credits to purchase and construct 5 homes in the community. They're requesting phase 5 contract that would include a commitment of $125,000 through the Housing Trust Fund, with $25,000 per home in that phase. Similarly, that was what the City of Mankato will be providing, the $125,000. Blue Earth County will be providing $75,000 with $115,000 per home. So together they would be providing $200,000 to this phase. So the requested action is to adopt a resolution authorizing the executive director to enter into the contract for phase 5 of the community partnership community land trust through December 31st of 27. And then we do have Mary here if you have questions about the community land trust or this phase.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
And a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Okay, and now the next section has to do with our RAD conversion. And the Economic Development Authority owns and operates a portfolio of public housing throughout the county. And you have been working on a transition to transition those public housing to project-based housing choice vouchers. And last September, you did convert 19 of those public housing units through that process, and now we're in the final phase, and we have secured approval from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to convert the remaining public housing units consisting of 47 scattered sites and the Breckenridge townhomes. In connection with this conversion, the EDA has determined that it's in the public's best interest to transfer the ownership of the remaining developments to Blue Earth County, and the process would convey the properties by quitclaim deed for a nominal amount consistent with public purpose in maintaining affordable housing. Following the transfer, which we anticipate will be like the last couple weeks in May, the EDA will enter 4 Section 8 project-based vouchers, 1 project-based voucher contract for each community in Blue Earth County that has the public housing units. And because the EDA administers a housing choice voucher, they can't manage those units. So with these units being transferred to the county would then enter into a management agreement with the Mankato EDA, and vice versa. When the Mankato accepts ownership of their public housing units, the Blue Earth County EDA will manage those units for them. And then there will be an agreement between the 2 EDAs to work together for staffing of both EDAs. So you'll see those new contracts coming to you next month as part of that process. But today we're asking you to approve the resolution authorizing the RAD conversion and disposing of the properties to Blue Earth County in supporting those project-based rental assistance units.
Move to approve.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You're busy
And
this morning.
Similarly, we have the resolution for the county to accept the properties. And so we would ask you to move approval of the attached resolution authorizing the county to accept these properties and enter into the necessary HAP contracts with the EDA and the management agreements with the Mankato EDA, and empower the administrator to execute the required documents and agreements for that transaction.
I'll move approval.
Motion and a second.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right.
And then the last item I have here, again, is part of the RAD conversion and really relates to all the work we've been doing this morning with Dustin here presenting those bids. Those were part of this RAD conversion. HUD was requiring these end-of-life improvements to the public housing properties as they convert this process. And knowing that those bids came in higher originally, and he rebid them to bring them down, they're still at a high enough rate where we had a funding gap. And so this is where we wanted to make adjustments to the memo that you had due to the short timing of getting the bids and assessing them and being able to get you information on the board packet. We did have some adjustments from our consultant. So this request is actually a loan through the Housing Trust Fund in the amount not to exceed $600,000 to support the conversion of the public housing portfolio. So this conversion is a critical component of the EDA's broader strategy to preserve affordable housing, improve property conditions, and in turn ensure long-term financial sustainability and create new affordable housing. As part of the conversion, the EDA completed that needs assessment and a comprehensive final analysis and evaluation using our capital funds and operating funds were needed to do a 20-year cash flow pro forma with HUD to complete the conversion. Despite having all of our capital funds and our reserves for replacement, we still ended up with a gap after getting these bids to come in. And part of that had to do with the formula that HUD uses. Although when we go out for bids, we have contingencies. HUD actually added more contingencies to that amount. So we don't feel like we will be using all of these funds, but in order for us to process this, we need this additional funding. And we wanted to have it put in as a loan, so it would be a 0% loan over 5 years if we need these funds to cash flow the public housing units. Otherwise, it would be repaid and it would be able to be used through our Housing Trust Fund again. And actually, it would doing that process actually takes it out of state funding, and it becomes a repayment that would be local dollars that can be leveraged future for additional grants under the program. So this does kind of give us a little ability to do some of that as well. But this request is really to fill that gap, and so we are requesting that you approve this resolution authorizing the Housing Trust Fund to form a repayable loan not to exceed $600,000 to support the RAD conversion of to public housing vouchers. Do you have any questions?
Move to approve.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do I need a motion to adjourn?
Thanks for all your work.
Yeah, thank you. This is lots of stuff.
Move to adjourn.
Thanks for coming, Andrew and Mary.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And we'll call back to
Planning
our
and zoning.
planning and zoning. Here we go. So we have public hearings, huh?
Morning, John.
Good morning.
John.
Hi, John.
So, planning and zoning staff are here to present their action item. This is a public hearing. Public comment will be allowed in a moment. As previously stated, comments should be civil and respectful. Go ahead with your report, John.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item and only item this morning for Planning and Zoning is PC 09-26. It's a request for a review and approval of an interim use permit by John Sabatka and Frank Tiemann. The interim use permit is to operate a lawn care business in the agriculture zoning district. The property is located in the southwest quarter of Section 3, Luray Township. The location address for the site is 22262 State Highway 60, Madison Lake, Minnesota. At the Planning Commission, staff presented the staff report, and the applicant was present and available to answer questions. The Commission asked if the applicant had any objections to the state highway permit, which they stated they had no objections. The applicant stated that they were dropping off the materials with MnDOT the very next day. Following the discussion by the Planning Commission, they voted unanimously to forward a recommendation of approval to the County Board based on the findings and conditions prepared by staff. And the Board action this morning would be passage of a resolution based on the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. So at this time, we will open the public comment portion of the hearing. If you would like to make a comment regarding PC 09-26, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone wishing to speak to PC 09-26? Anyone wishing to comment? All righty, last time for anyone wishing to comment on PC 09-26. We will close the public comment portion of the hearing.
I'll move approval, Madam Chair.
All right, to have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Any discussion on this?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we'll close the public hearing. So this concludes planning and zoning today? Thank you very
Easy
much.
one. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like drainage is going to be a little longer.
Hey, got the whole crew here today.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Whenever you're ready.
I've got the first item, Madam Chair. For Judicial Ditch 15, we're going to be setting the acceptance of contract hearing date. Blue Earth County Judicial Ditch 15 is located in Lincoln Township. Blue Earth County Drainage Authority approved a public bid for JD 15, awarding the repair contract to Larson Contracting on October 8th of 2024. Property Environmental Resources Department Drainage Management staff have received the engineer's acceptance of contract report for the approved JD 15 repairs on March 6th of 2026. All contractual work has been completed by the contractor, and now is the appropriate time to schedule the hearing for the acceptance of contract. Today, we request the Judicial Ditch 15 Drainage Authority set the contract acceptance hearing date for May 26th, 2026 at 9 a.m. in the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners room located on the second floor of the historic courthouse building. That is all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. On to 33.
Judicial Ditch 33 resides in sections 22, 23, 26, and 27 of McPherson Township. JD 33 is a public drainage system established in 1918 with an approximate watershed of 896 acres. A petition for improvement was received on December 6, 2021. The hearing on the preliminary survey report was held on June 21st, 2022, where the Drainage Authority ordered Charles J. Brandel to prepare a detailed survey report and order viewers to prepare a report on the benefits and damages. Mr. Brandel submitted an amended detailed survey report to the Property Environmental Resources Department on June 3rd, 2024. Viewers submitted their report on February 18th, 2026. The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources advisory report was received on May 19th, 2025. Today, we request the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority set a date for the hearing on the detailed survey and viewers report for May 26, 2026. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, next one.
All right, our next agenda item here is setting hearing for County Ditch 64 redetermination of benefits. The Blue Earth County Ditch 64 watershed is approximately 1,026 acres in size in Sterling Township. On May 7th, 2019, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority approved a findings and order initiating a redetermination of benefits for County Ditch 64. Viewers were appointed in order to create an updated benefits and damages listing and viewers report for County Ditch 64. A copy of the drafted viewers report for the redetermination of benefits was submitted to the Blue Earth County Drainage Management staff. Today, we request the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority to set a date of May 26, 2026 at 9 a.m. for hearing on the proposed viewers report for the County Ditch 64 redetermination of benefits. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion, other than that's going to be another busy day? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
And Madam Chair, I have the
Yes.
final item here, and it relates to a recent works session discussion that we had
Yep.
regarding drainage lien interest rates. Some background for the board. Annually, the board sets an interest rate for multi-year drainage liens established that year. The interest rate is then utilized for the duration of the loan. Drainage management staff are recommending amendments to the interest rate for 3 drainage loans that cross 2 systems. Starting with taxes payable year 2027, as outlined in the following table. Today's action, which is being requested, is that the board approve the proposed drainage lien interest rate change, starting with payable 2027 and beyond for the duration of those loans for those systems in the table. It is recommended that each drainage system receives its own county board motion. As a result, drainage management staff recommend the following motions to amend the interest rates. County Ditch 86, a motion amending the interest rate of 7% set on January 7th, 2025. County board meeting to 6%.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Judicial Ditch 14, a motion amending the interest rate of 7% set at the January 2nd, 2024 County Board meeting to 6%.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So just 2?
Just the 2 systems, yep.
Okay.
3 different liens, but 2 different systems with 2 different interest rates.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Next up is Phil with Human Services. Phil Clausen. Good morning.
Morning, Phil.
Morning,
Morning,
Phil.
Phil.
Glasses. Need
You
glasses.
should have them everywhere.
It's true, I do actually have them everywhere. In my truck, on my dresser, everywhere. Madam Chair, I have 2 action items for the board's review today, and then 3 different informational and discussion points for discussion with the board. The action items are first in financial assistance, SNAP employment and training. This is a federal program that's handed through the state to us to administer. SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. These addendum funds or amendment funds are for retaining employment, so recipients can be self-sufficient. The total amount for 26 is $55,256, which is a 29% or $12,000 increase from last year. And the term October 25 through September 30th of 26. And then, Madam Chair, my other action item is administrative, and Social Service Task Force has 4 appointments, 2 from District 5, Victoria Nett and Melissa Hernandez, 1 from District 4, Jill Salstrom, and 1 from District 3, Mariana Blessy. also District 3. So those are my action items for today that I bring before the board for approval.
Move to approve.
Second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Commissioners. The topics that I have for today are fraud, child support, and our billing system, all operated out of one of our units by Shane Johnson. There were talking points included in the board report, which I'm going to actually use to talk through, and then most of the information is redundant on the single page fact sheets, but I did think that I'd want to give those both to the board in case you're ever asked or want a quick summary. The one-pagers are kind of nice versus the narrative. So first section for discussion is fraud, our fraud programming. We have comment in here about the fact that the state really does provider payments and enrollment systems. So most all of the media coverage that we've heard of is at that level of providers getting approved through the state. And really, the big difference for us, as I tell our story, is that we deal with recipients, with real people. So they approve at a high level, and the fraud that appears or apparently took place would be that there aren't real people being served. There's just money being transferred. That's not our level. Our level is we have a person, and what we check for is compliance in that case. So it's a very more specific application that we do in our shop. And so those are the real big differences. Our mission is to look at each case, and really financial assistance workers are the ones that do that, and then we have a person assigned just to fraud. And there is crossover to Pat's department at times if there's criminal issues. And there is a note at the end that we've been asked not to do that during the COVID days, and so now we're ramping back up to do criminal activity if there is criminal activity. And so we'll work with Pat and his staff to do that. The bullets under fraud, just that we prevented about $400,000 in future incorrect payments. So people filled out the application wrong. Our workers caught it, checked it out, and it didn't happen. So it's fraud prevention. And then also identified approximately $92,000 in overpayments. And so those that went out, and we realized that was not correct. Sometimes the issues would be they have some extra people in their home and wouldn't qualify for some of the benefit, and so we have to refigure out how it would be. Is if there's 2 occupants of the home, not just 1, those types of things, it can affect how much benefit they qualify for. And so we're correcting those things. It's preventative in its nature, but it is absolutely an investigation that we do with regard to preventing fraud. And then this cost-benefit ratio that the board's heard before, this last year was $4.83 return on investment, and the benchmark for the state is we should get $3 back for every dollar of investment. So we're doing quite well, very strong cost effectiveness in fraud. And I already talked about the county attorney crossover. I do think that our goal, our mission here is to make sure people receiving services are eligible, and then we also want to make sure we're good stewards of the public funds, that we're not on fraud, waste, and abuse mission. Second section is child support, and in child support we have 12 staff. We did go through a restructure to better align workload, and really what that meant is increasing their ability to go and do court work and cross over in a lot of different ways. So I think we found some efficiencies in that, improving our timelines, bringing consistency in the way we serve folks that need child support assistance. There's 5 federal performance indicators that are listed out for you. First, establishing parentage, who's the parent of the children, making sure we have that, genetic testing. Establish support orders, collecting current support, and also collecting past due support called arrears that we do as well. And then the overall cost effectiveness, again, that there's a ratio on a return on investment that we measure. The federal incentive is determined per state. We had in Blue Earth County dispersed over $7.3 million in support to families, 2,500 children, almost 1,500 cases because some families obviously have more than one child, and 60 order modifications this past year. We rank in the top 25% of counties in the state for cost effectiveness, so very proud of that. And finally, billing. Our billing team serves 15 different program areas where there is revenue, and that's kind of a uniqueness to Human Services, that we do have some revenue. It's not enough to float our boat almost in every case. It comes up short, but it does help, and we want to get every dollar we can. We were able to recover $9.2 million last year. We have one supervisor, one coordinator, and one account clerk, and this was an area that we froze a position as well. And I think we are feeling that in a lot of different ways. Targeted case management you've heard about, which is really our bread and butter for social workers. They're able to get this recovery called targeted case management, TCM. We got $4.18 million last year in that area, and we had this goal that we talked to the board about early last year about trying to make sure that every hit we could get, we would get. And so we set a very high benchmark of 95% and actually reached 96. So very proud of that, and really staff deserve the credit for that outcome, that performance. That does not always equate to what we actually receive, which is another issue altogether. But when we miss a hit, sometimes people won't answer the door, you know, those types of things. That's our real work, is just trying to make sure every month they make face-to-face contact so we can get the hit, and they did that very well. Mental Health Center, $773,000 last year in recoveries, 1,500 patients annually. Yeah, this is more in my wheelhouse. When I was practicing, how complex the billing systems are. You know, we could go on and on, or I could go on and on about the different insurance companies. There's no standardization, so they all have their own rules, and you have to understand those. The appeals processes are all different. The auditing processes all come different. And so there's been some attempts to try to streamline that. And really, from a legislative perspective, people are supportive, but from an insurance company perspective, they like their proprietary differences. So we're kind of left with what we have. Complex, there's a payer mix, there's an intensity level, procedure codes, and also the timing of the payments. And you will hear us talk about this. In fact, when I just want to briefly look at the slides, but one of those is that we, in our recoveries in billing, we were short, even though we're trending upward. But like UCare owes us over $500,000 right now. So I mean, it's a big ticket item that could really make a big difference. And I don't know if we'll see it. They're in kind of a state of recovery right now, and I think there'll be some settlement is probably what will happen, and who knows when too. So that really hurts us. In the community, I will say that mom and pop shops, if you will, the smaller providers, it really hurts them when they don't get paid. I mean, we can kind of deal with that or talk about that at the board level and say, here's some aging recoveries that we hope to get someday. When you can't pay your bills, it's a whole different story. And some of them are talking about, I'm going to have to take out a loan to cover my cost. And overall, I think in the Mental Health Center, there's been stability, like I say, some trending upward in volume, but we want to make sure we maximize all of those revenues. Again, in UCare, it's the Mental Health Center as well as it does for our social workers. Like I say, just for the sake of time, we'll just quickly look at these fact sheets. On the fraud fact sheet, there's key terms defined if the board's interested in knowing what does that actually mean. I think those are good definitions. I read through all of them. The bottom graphic where it says federal, state, and local roles, that's somewhat helpful to discern out what we're talking about, what's in the media, and what part of the fraud issue are we actually referring to when we get into a conversation about that. And the second page of the fraud fact sheets show local impacts. And just a note on the workforce, I think there is, kind of a black eye that everybody feels when there's that much in the media, and it's hard not to take it personally, even though it's not at our hand. I think staff feel bad about it, they really do, and we wish that would have never happened, but we'll hopefully sort it out and be able to move on. And then the fact sheet on The child support, I think actually we covered most all of that. The very bottom, it says our mission, and one thing that's important that sometimes can get lost in the blur of our work, the complexity, is we're actually trying to get money to kids that need it, and that's our mission. And we always want to have that be front and center, so I just wanted to make sure you all know, we know that that's our real job here, and we want to give them that support that they really need. It says to thrive, which is a good word. Finally, Madam Chair, Commissioners, billing, the fact sheet, I think we covered most of that. I also even mentioned, you'll see the bar graph and the budgeted amount against actual. There's a $300,000 gap there, but there is some trending up over time, and even in the mental health center, there was also about $100,000, the last note on the left side of the page. There was some trending up there as well. The banner kind of in the middle of the page, it says in 2025 is where it shows almost $300,000 from last year over last year's performance, which is great, but we do need to balance our budget as well. So that's what I had for you all today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to spend just a little more time talking about the fraud, Phil.
Sure.
Because you know that's been just big. So if I understood you correctly, when you first started your presentation, you know, that state level stuff is a little bit higher level and people can maybe get paid. So, but when it gets down to the county level, you're more one-on-one. You might know the provider, you might know
Right.
the person that's getting the money.
Right.
A lot of the stuff's direct deposit, so you don't hand a person a check.
Sure.
So that probably doesn't help for the fraud. But
Yep.
what safeguards do we have in place to make sure our people are getting the money that they're supposed to? And it kind of leads into the, you know, the support of the children, making sure the
Yes.
money gets to the
Absolutely.
children.
Child
I know that's
support,
kind
too.
of a separate question, but
No,
you know, how do we
because-
make sure that's
right.
getting to where it needs to be?
Right, Commissioner, the fraud mission cuts across all our programs, so child support, it would cut across all the financial assistance, so whenever anybody's getting health, food, or cash assistance, those are all the ways that we look at fraud. And so what you do is in that system we have, you cross-check what they're telling us, and we actually get their receipts from any employment, their bank statements. So we verify, I mean, it's a lot of work. We're going to have a work session on the Medicaid side, and you'll hear some of this from staff, just how much we already do, how many layers of checking we do. And so I don't think it's a perfect, like we can catch every bit of piece, but usually what I would say is common errors and honest errors that people put down, we catch. If you wanted to purposely defraud us, you could set up a false situation and probably lie about a bunch of things and try to get verification, and that would be harder to determine. And those, sorry, I lost them. Those would be ones that we'd say have criminal intent. It's absolutely fraudulent intent. It happens rarely in my whole career that we've had cases like that, but we have had cases like that at the local level where we trip over it and go, something's not right here. Our investigator will go and surveillance, do surveillance on people. They'll ask employers questions. I mean, we're very, very aggressive. So when you ask check and balances, that's a great question because it's not a passive just pushing out resources. Because it's individual, we know this person, we will verify with the person. What I think is harder, what the fraud that I understand, and again, it's I don't know all of the facts, but if you set up a shell company and try to get established with the state, or really it's federal too, and they don't check that, you can get millions of dollars sent and there's nobody home. There's a child care with no children, that thing. And we don't have any fingerprints on that really at all, is the truth. And so that has not been part of our story at this place in our more local part of administration.
Well, that's why we like to have local control, but at the same time, it's very time consuming to do these checks, because you have to do these checks every year or sometimes 6 months, or if a job change, you have to do it again.
You have to, yes. So those are the checks and balances, but yes, if you change, and you'll hear some of that, is you go from annual checks for even our staff to 6 months checks. Well, that's doubled the work job for their people, and we've already have, you know, a lot of staff, but their caseloads are extremely high. And so there's this push-pull all the time on this, on how much checking do we want to do. and, what's the return on investment? And so I think that is a really good picture. I don't think there's anything we're doing that I would say needs, to be overhauled or changed at the local level. But what happened, and we still don't know fully what happened, but what happened at that higher level where people can do purposeful fraud, seems, at that higher level is a whole different issue for us. And I think by proxy, we're part of the same system. We don't divorce ourselves from that, but that's the embarrassment.
And being a smaller community and smaller area, you might be able to throw up a red flag
Yes,
sooner than
for sure.
a state or federal program.
And just think of that too, as if we heard of the name of a child care facility and we drive by and there's no one there.
Yeah.
We'd notice it. In the cities, you might not notice it. So that's scale and scope is a big part of this, and we have much more hands-on. I think you'll hear as we go forward too, like, yeah, I have mixed feelings. Of course, my programs are near and dear to our hearts and what we put our blood, sweat, and tears in. But when we hand off to the state and it becomes more automated or less personal, to your point, I think there's more cracks that form. I think that's a fair thing to say.
And shifting gears a little bit to the technology piece.
Yeah.
When you say the part about have to go from a year to 6 months, if we fix the technology piece over here, that job wouldn't be as hard.
Right,
So it
for
keeps
sure.
kind of snowballing.
Yes.
And it's more
Yes.
work because my understanding, the way you guys have to do things is very redundant. You can't just move things.
Correct.
And apparently if you have to change something, you have to change everything for all the kids and everything.
Yes.
Or if you could just make it, okay, the one changes, their salary changed because they changed jobs, and it's done. But until we get that fixed, your workload is going to be overwhelming.
Absolutely. And so you hear war stories about just change of address, how long that takes. But when we talk about the fraud issue, that's you have a different job or you're getting paid a lot more or there's more people living in your home. That changes the whole formula and how much you're eligible for.
Sure.
So those are kind of two different pieces. They're both important, but when somebody's situation changes, they have to report that. And we actually have ways to look at, once they do our intake, into their bank accounts and other things, so we can check specifically. It's not just like, tell me your situation. It's we check it out. So,
good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Phil.
Even the technology is going to take multiple years.
Well, I have to say, I was talking to Josh a little bit about a work session too, and he's been good enough to come over and talk with staff and for our work session and about the Medicaid changes and SNAP changes. And we still don't know exactly what they will be, but as we start guessing and doing performas about what it might be, the technology parts of that, they came to advisory committee, the same folks that are going to come to board session and talk to our folks from the community. And you felt almost immediately like right over their head, like this is way too complex to explain. And I thought staff just did a great job. And the thing is, our group stayed engaged the whole time, kept asking like, what are work requirements? What do you mean work requirements? And so we'd have to define things and go through them all. But when you get to the technology, our staff were saying they love our system. And I said, no, don't say that. Don't say that. And I know you've been involved in this too. I said, but because they know how to use it and they're scared of with the technology changes, how long it's going to take, and trading for what? Behind door number 2 is scary. It really is. So.
Yeah, well, we just need to have people involved in the change.
Yeah,
so.
That's right. Very well said.
Yeah, I've got questions on how SNAP would work if it went through the state of Minnesota instead of federal government. So, but there's a long discussion. We'll talk about it another time.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
good to
Phil.
see you. Have a
Thanks,
good
Phil.
afternoon. Yep.
Does anybody need a break?
I'm okay.
We don't have
Everybody
much
good?
left.
We don't have much. Doesn't matter. All right. Sometimes you need a break. All right, Bob, we'll move on to you.
All right, Madam Chair, the first item is the county board minutes for April 7th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Next are the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
I'll move the bills.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Bills carry.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, tab 10 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. I have a couple of action items for the board's consideration today. First is authorization for the county board chair and county administrator to sign an agreement with the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 49. This is a 3-year contract. We did end up going to mediation with this group and did reach a tentative agreement. The 3-year agreement does include a 3.5%, and a 2% increase each of those 3 years, or over the course of that 3-year agreement. Other provisions that were addressed in this contract include the Minnesota paid leave and earned sick and safe time provisions. Generally, those are provisions that are similar to other bargaining groups that we've reached agreement with. One kind of major element that really took us to mediation was discussion around summer work hours. The board is, I'm sure, aware that we have been doing a reduced summer schedule, kind of extending out 4 days out of the week and then a half day on Friday. The union really pressed on a desire to go to a 4-day work week. They brought forward information about a number of counties that are operating that way. And so where we ended up with this agreement was a memorandum of understanding that would allow the union and the county to come together this year, develop a plan to try a 1-year trial of a 4-day work week. Now, that doesn't mean the Public Works facility is open 4 days over the summer. We might have mixed schedules within that, but for the employees, they would look at a 4-day work week. So that's yet to be determined what that actually looks like. That's what the work group would do as part of a meet and confer component, and then we would have a trial. And so we would have an opportunity in the future if the county doesn't feel like it's working to meet the needs of the community. We could let that MOU pass, or we could negotiate something different in the next contract. And so that was the resolution that was reached with the mediator's assistance, and we're bringing it forward for the board's consideration today.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
The second item then is a proposal to do a jail reorganization, including some reclassification of a few positions and creating supervisory sergeant positions. We do have a memo that outlines some of that change. We did review this with the board at the last county board work session. And so this is a restructure idea that really is based in the desire to have more on-site supervision throughout the day in the jail. And so upgrading the jail sergeant positions, with the exception of the jail programmer, that position would remain classified at the same level, but creating shift-based supervisory sergeants and administrative sergeants with a increase in their grade level, and then also having reclassifications of the jail administrator and the assistant jail administrator. We believe that will help with on-site supervision, like I say. We'll have a better kind of reporting structure in place and allow us to kind of get that direct supervision to staff, so we maybe experience lower turnover in the jail correctional officers. As the board is aware, we continue to see a fair amount of turnover in that area. I will tell you that when we were in negotiations with the union that the sergeants and correctional officers are in, they expressed some concern about the jail sergeant positions, and so this is kind of a byproduct of some of those discussions as well. We currently pay a fair amount of resources into lead worker pay when we don't have supervision on site on those, especially the evening hours, and so this will help with that. And like I say, it should lead to better supervision of the staff, less turnover, and hopefully a reduction in overtime expenses. So bringing this forward for the board's consideration today.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, then under informational items, we did fill a couple of library clerk positions down in our Mapleton Library, and so those are listed there. We did fill a correctional officer position in the jail, but we also had a resignation of a correctional officer, and so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. We also had a resignation of a PER specialist position in our elections office. We then had a resignation of a maintenance technician 1 in our public works area and revised that resignation date. Then we also had a resignation of a 911 telecommunicator in our dispatch within the sheriff's office, and so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. And lastly, we've initiated recruitment to refill the deputy county administrator position. So I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have on any of those items.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, we're good to go.
All right, tab 11 in your packet then is the financial status report for March 31st. We're 1/4 of the way through our fiscal year. You'll see our total revenue sit at $17.2 million with expenses at $29 million. We obviously see a deficit at this time of the year as we're waiting for those first half property tax receipts to come in. Some things I might draw your attention to is at the top, our state and federal revenue is higher in the first quarter of this year compared to last year, partly because some payments in human services were delayed, should have been received in the fourth quarter of last year and fell into January. Our transportation sales tax is up 4.6% over last year at this time, so that's an encouraging sign, given that last year we were seeing some declines in those receipts. On the expenditure side, our public aid assistance is down 18.4% from this time last year. That's a little bit of a surprise to me, and I've talked to the Human Service Director a little bit about that, and we'll want to keep an eye on that. It could be a byproduct of some of the deficit issues we've had in that department, and so I think the staff are making adjustments in terms of approving assistance where they can, but that's a number we'll kind of want to keep an eye on. The contracts and fees line is down 24%, but that's more timing on some of our road projects, so I would expect that that will start to recover as we're now into road construction season. Building and equipment purchases are down substantially. That again is a byproduct of that public works building being completed now or in the final build stages there, so that number will continue to be very different than last year. But overall, we seem to be tracking well. Under the enterprise fund, which is the Ponderosa landfill, you'll see total revenues are at $903,000 compared to expenses of $1.9 million. The big difference there is the investment in machinery and equipment. We have almost $1.3 million of expenditures already this year, and so we should see that gap start to close as the year progresses. On the second page then is our cash and investment balances. Towards the top, you'll see our total available funds sit at $76.9 million against our 6-month operating needs of $67.2 million. Our total county funds then towards the bottom of the page show our cash at $133.3 million, so up a little bit from the prior year, largely a result of invested in that bond for the public works building. So be happy to answer any questions on the financial status report if the board has any.
Madam Chair, on the fees for service under the enterprise fund, Bob, in 25, what's going on there that was so much higher in 25 to 26?
Yeah, it's a difference.
I would have to look into that a little more. I don't think I could tell you off the top of my head and be confident in that. I'll research that and
All right, thank
get
you.
information back to you.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Bob. I guess we move into commissioner reports. Kevin?
Okay, since our April 7th board meeting, I attended the work session afterwards, as well as employee recognition. April 9th was soil and water, as well as mayors and clerks. Attended the Benco annual meeting on the 11th. On the 13th, we had the Minnesota River One Watershed, One Plan Advisory Committee. We will be seeing that plan before this board shortly. On the 14th, the employee appreciation. On April 16th was the NACO RAC meeting. 17th, I attended the AMC board meeting. On the 20th, listened in on the AMC legislative update. And this morning before board meeting, we had a meeting on JD 48. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Kevin. Kip?
My report consists of the work session after the last board meeting and then the employee appreciation program afterwards, which I thought went very well. Had a MICA conference call, not a whole lot going on up there. They're heavy into the legislative season, but not getting anything done at this point. Was at SWCD with Kevin, everything's going well there. Mayors and clerks, was nice to see the sheriff and the emergency manager there and our chief deputy there. And did a great job talking about the Emergency Awareness Week or month. Made the safety meeting up at the highway department and got to talk to some of the retired highway employees, and then JD 48 this morning, and then some county road issues and ditch projects throughout the week.
Of course. Vance?
All right. I also did the work session after the last board meeting and the employee recognition event that we had. On Thursday, we had mayors and clerks, Madison Lake. That was enjoyable. And let's see, we had our County Government Month celebrations on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then on Thursday, the 16th, I listened in on a NACO RAC, Rural Action Caucus Zoom. On Monday, the 20th, I listened in to an AMC Ledge update, and that's the end of my report.
Thanks, Vance. Mark?
Mine's pretty short. Just after April 7th, after our board meeting, I just had a county work session, and and then I had the JD 48, and that concludes.
Yeah, you had a little vacation in there. I too attended the workshop and the employee recognition. On the 8th was Region 9. On the 9th was policy webinar with NACO and mayors and clerks. The 11th, I went to the Benco meeting. 13th, the law library. The 14th was County Government Month at the Government Center. On the 15th, I went to the Eagle Lake Active Adults meeting, and that afternoon, the Justice Center Employee Government Month. On the 16th, I had TDS in the morning and then RAC. On the 17th, Public Works Safety Meeting, and on the 20th, AMC Lodge. And that concludes our reports.
Okay.
So I need a motion to
Recess. Second.
I have a motion and a second to recess. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. All right, we are recessed.